Dr. Subrat, I think so. We start. I think so. Dr. Yadav is busy. He will connect.
Okay.
So, sir, I welcome you on this platform. And I'm Dr. Navjot Daya, President Punjab Medical Association, our IMA wing. And we are
Yeah.
having a PIMACon,
Okay.
our annual conference. And this is a session which is watched by maximum delegates
Right.
because we had a conference online and offline. So this
Right.
is an online session, and
Okay.
I welcome you. And I have along with me our past president, Dr. Rakesh Vig. So we
Yeah.
will start rolling some questions. What
Sure.
we have, and we will like you to enlighten us on that subject.
Sure. Sure.
Sir.
Dr. Kapoor,
Yes.
I'm Dr. Rakesh with Passport IMA Punjab. Sir, my
Yes.
first question to you is what the in the light of the recent National Commission judgment about the legal point of the written consent
Right.
in all procedure, whether surgery, medical, whatever it is, what is the
Right.
legal status of these written consents which we have typed already or printed consents?
Right. As soon as that judgment came, I had given an opinion to a lot of hospitals and individual doctors that this judgment needs to be challenged before the Supreme Court, because a challenge from National Commission lies before the Supreme Court, and for a different reason. One thing is our consent forms are obviously expected to mention all the material complications that can be associated. We need to write about what this nature of the procedure is. So when we have to give all this information, all of this cannot be in a written form. And when you have a high turnover of patients, obviously written will be a difficult proposition. Further, sometimes the handwriting people say is not legible, and therefore it will be difficult to read also. Now, fortunately, this has been challenged by the defendant in that particular case, and the Supreme Court has stayed that particular judgment of the National Commission. There are a lot of interveners. Interveners means those who were not original parties in that particular case. RG Stone, if I'm not mistaken, was the defendant in that case along with another doctor. So that particular, there were other people who intervened, including a lot of medical associations also who intervened. I'm told even IMA has intervened in this matter. So all these associations will put forth their arguments how difficult it is to have a written consent. And when this judgment was in force, before this stay came, I had suggested to a lot of doctors and medical associations in the interim, what we needed to do is have a patient information sheet which can be printed, but the consent form could be handwritten. But that was only till the time that the National Commission judgment was in force. Now it is stayed, so there is no worry.
What exactly you will like to put on for the consent in all cases? What type of consent we should we go for all case specific consents? For example, there is a left cholecystectomy. We should enumerate all the complications which can happen. Should it
Okay.
be one is a general consent for admission, second is a consent for surgery, third is a case specific consent which will vary whether it is hysterectomy or cesarean or nephrectomy or gallbladder surgery, whatever it is. Do you
Correct.
think we should
Correct.
have these case specific
Right.
consents also?
Case specific may be a little difficult if it's a multi-speciality hospital and you handle different kind of cases. But if you have say laparoscopic cholecystectomy as a large number of cases, I'm just giving a illustration, or you're doing a lot of hysterectomies in a particular department, you could always have case specific, but still it's a difficult thing to do. You can have a template of informed consent where you have to fill in certain information which is particular to that case. For example, if you are doing a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, you mentioned about that, and you leave space for material complications or information that is required in that particular case, because material is to that particular procedure only. We all know that laparoscopic procedures may have to be, turned into a open surgery if there are a lot of additions or if it's difficult to proceed with that particular procedure. So this is an important information. Now, bile duct injuries are also very well known with laparoscopic cholecystectomies. So all this is something material to a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, and those 5 to 10 important points which are related to that particular procedure can be mentioned in that template that we have.
No, what I mean to say is one is a general consent for we are taken for surgery. Second, you
Right.
may have or just a plain paper over which in the patient the language, whether it is Hindi, Punjabi or English, whatever it is, we write down the case specific points. Yes, yes, this can be anesthesia complication, hemorrhage can occur which may need blood transfusion, bile duct injury, it may be need conversion to open surgery, all the or bilioma can occur, second surgery can be whatever
Right.
6 7 points you can write down in such cases on a plain paper and get the in the language the patient understand, and then you can put on the signatures of the patient attendants and your own.
Right. You can to avoid multiple kind of consents. You can because you know a priori that which surgery you are going to perform in that particular patient. Then you can have a template in which you have blanks for the complications associated, the nature of the procedure, which you can fill in. If you want to have a separate one, that is also fine, but multiple consents are sometimes a little complicated. Your staff may miss to get the proper signature. So if you have one consent, well and good. If you want to have multiple, that is also fine. But as far as the language of the consent is concerned, whether you are taking a general consent or a procedure specific consent, it's always advisable to have in 3 languages. One is English, one is Hindi, because most people understand Hindi, and a regional language, Punjabi in your case, because some of them may not know either of the two, and you depending on the turnover you have, or association can formulate these templates and keep this for all the members, so that it's in the language the patient understands. So rather than each time having a written Punjabi version of that informed consent, it's always better to have it ready well in advance.
Because what I mean was, suppose we are doing a surgery, patient is very obese, suppose he is a heart or diabetic patient, IUP
Correct.
patient, because
Right.
sometimes that 2 3 different points will have to be entered into that
Correct.
consent in the
Correct.
context of those
Correct.
comorbidities. So that's
Correct.
why I said it's case specific consent when we need it, because suppose patient is a low ejection fraction case, and we
Right.
have increased morbidity and mortality chances in such cases.
Correct. Correct.
So
I agree with you, Dr. Rakesh. But as I said earlier, instead of having multiple consent forms, if you can have it in one, that is better, because if you leave space for it, you can add all this information. If your template is falling short, you can have a additional consent form where you will have specific for that. So you can have 2 consents as you suggested. There is no harm in that. One where you have about the anesthesia part of it, general complications that can be associated with any surgery like bleeding, post-operative infection, all this can be mentioned there. And what is specific to that procedure, you can have a separate consent also. There is no harm in having separate consents.
thank you, Raj.
Right. Right.
Dr. Noor, I am Dr. Yogeshwar Sood, past president, IMA Punjab. Before I start my question, I like to ask the delegates to note a number 9915281441. I repeat 9915281441. If they have any
10
question,
सेकंड
can put up the
उनके
question
मोटर सिलेक्शन कर रहा है अनस्टेबल है
and send it on WhatsApp to this number. Sir, I have a question. Since government is now going towards mixopathy, but our association, our controlling council, they say we cannot use mixopathy. We can prescribe the medicines only specific to our stream, that is the allopathy. So I ask your comments, what is the situation at present for us?
Yeah, I think Dr. Yadav also has joined. So,
So I
would you
ask,
like? Yeah, yeah. I will also answer since Dr. Yadav is here.
I
Shall we start?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dr. Yadav to answer this question.
yeah.
Taken my question.
So good afternoon. So regarding your question about this mixopathy, so I think when you go into the past, our reaction is when something happened. When you go lot of judgment of High Court and even Supreme Court, which has clarified that there should not be that permission of writing, especially medicine part. You have to write
Sorry, you are very audible.
this notification is totally illegal. It should be checked,
Sir, I am asking the question in the light
which has been already challenged, because there is no clarity where that. Yeah. Yes.
Sir, I'm asking this question in the light of the latest developments in the field of medicine, where the government is doing horrible things.
Right.
CIM and everybody claims.
A lot of discussion has happened, and I think there has been representation also being made to the National Medical Commission on this. Let us see what their response is. The discussion not only lies, there is a talk about a bridge course to have a bridge between allopathy and the different other systems. But whether we studied pharmacology for say 1.5 years, will that be sufficient? Similarly, they are talking about doing a lot of surgical procedures. Now, it is mentioned that in the ancient Indian scriptures, Shushruta Sahita also, there's mention about surgical procedures being done. Now, if that is so, all these years, why the system practitioners have not been doing this kind of surgeries, or why are they dependent on doctors who are practicing modern system of medicine, is a question raised by a lot of people. This discussion is happening at a very high level, and we hope that National Medical Commission also intervenes. IMA as well as a lot of medical associations have made representations, and we'll wait for them to respond on this.
Sir,
Uh,
the situation
do-
is that in allopathy, we have to specialize in different specialties to do the surgery.
Correct, correct, right,
What the surgery allowed by the government or prescribed by the government to them is multiple specialties in only one course.
right,
X-ray, spectrum, cholecystectomy, whatever they have done, they have
right,
put up all of them, ENTI, gynae, into only one
right.
course. And for us, we have to go to different courses.
Right. Apart from that, sir, the counter argument a lot of Ayurvedic doctors have is that they have MD in their own fields, which include gynec and other fields also. And there have been certain state notifications which have permitted them to perform hysterectomies and other gynecological surgeries. That has been a bone of contention and discussion. So it's good that this discussion is happening at a national level, and IMA and other associations, premier associations like yours, when we take this issue, the government is definitely going to look at it with a different perspective. Do you agree, Dr. Yadav?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. This issue should be addressed at least at two levels. One at the political level and another at the judiciary or legal angle.
Correct.
So we have to approach either High Court or Supreme Court if we want to quash that notification.
Correct.
And again, political opinion, because when you think from the government point of view, what they want universal coverage of the health for the all through different. Allopathic doctors want to go at the root level. That is why they started that community health wellness center and like that, because government has to yield to that 80% population they need. Why they are not giving this right to those who are not entitled even? And again, many of our doctor community, they are performing ghost surgery. Patient is admitted under that Ayurveda. You are appointing them in ICU as a critical care in charge. They claimed officially in press release that most of the ICU are managed by the Ayurveda. So somewhere fault is with our system. Maybe at the association, IMA or IPA, जो भी association है एलोपैथी, हम लोगों ने कहीं ना कहीं इस चीज को नहीं डिफरेंशिएट. इथिकल रेगुलेशन है, मतलब we have to fight on multiple levels. Say for example, in our case, allopathy, it is a Medical Council of India, Indian Medical Council Professional Conduct Ethics Etiquette Regulation 2002. Similar regulations are for the Ayurveda and homeopathy, legal, binding, but nobody raising any complaint or never hue and cry is made. Say for example, they cannot advertise like us. Even there is more stricture. They have even mentioned the size of that advertisement. So until unless these cases are not brought to the judiciary or consumer court, तब तक पब्लिक को ये चीजें नहीं समझ.
Sir, you are not audible.
कि कहाँ पे रॉन्ग होने जा रहा है. Only there is everything has some cost, quality. The person
Sir, you are not audible, sir.
Okay, I think the point.
Or them, yeah.
You are not audible, sir.
Please.
Your voice is in.
Yeah, I am audible.
So now you are audible.
Okay. Yeah. So we have to raise this issue at multiple level, creating awareness among the public, because ultimately the beneficiary is the public. Then ask those leaders in different states, because here constitutional provisions are there, as Dr. Subodh had said. Something are in the concurrent list. Medical education is in concurrent list. So central government can make law. Health services are in the state list. So state government can permit on certain points. So there is always a conflict between these constitutional provision कि government को क्या power है इसको allow करने की या नहीं allow करने की. So we have to fight this issue on multiple levels. Associations should come forward. They should file cases either in Supreme Court if more than 2 states are involved. Obviously, in this case, more than 2 states are involved. So directly case can be filed in the Supreme Court. Then complain to their councils regarding unethical activity done by them. Again, यहाँ पे क्या होगा, हमारा confrontation ज़्यादा होगा, हमें output कम मिलेगा. So we have to make representations. Say for example, there is an option of that change.org online petition. Without much that expenditure, sitting at a room, you can draft that petition, enter their addresses and email to whom you want to address that petition, and circulate among all the members of IMA, all doctors. They will sign petition, that voice will be heard in democratic manner. So these are some of the issues where we can raise our concern कि we are not against them. जब भी इमेज बनाई जाती है, हमेशा ये बनाई जाती है हम उनके अगेंस्ट हैं. हम अगेंस्ट नहीं है, वो अपना प्रैक्टिस करें, हम अपना प्रैक्टिस करें. कितने पॉलिटिशियन, कितने ब्यूरोक्रेट्स ने उनसे ऑपरेशन करा. इफ दे गिवन ए चॉइस कि आपको सर्जरी करानी है तो आप किससे कराना चाहते हो, एलोपैथिक डॉक्टर से या आयुर्वेद डॉक्टर से. अगर आप नहीं कराना चाहते तो आम पब्लिक को बलि का बकरा क्यों बनाया जा रहा है. So we have to create awareness among public also कि this shortcut is not good for the country, not for public and not for any profession. They are losing their tag of their Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a respected branch since 5000 BC, but they are not practicing Ayurveda. They are encroaching into allopathic, modern science. So here we have to differentiate between what is their right, what are our rights, and again obviously organizing such type of webinar or conferences where this clear-cut distinction, so that public can raise these issues before court or consumer court or high courts, etc.
Yes, sir.
So any specific query,
Yes, sir.
because there is a lot of debate on this issue.
I have one more question. I am a gynecologist. A MBBS
Yeah.
person, can he or she perform cesarean or for a surgeon like certain things? He or she is only MBBS in case of.
I think this question has been raised on multiple times. देखिए, हर चीज का आंसर एक स्टैंडर्ड नहीं हो सकता. नंबर वन, हर केस उस इंडिविजुअल मेरिट पे डिसाइड होगा, फैक्ट पे डिसाइड होगा. से फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ इट इज एन इमरजेंसी and only MBBS doctor is available to save the life in good faith under protection of section 92 IPC, anybody can do anything even without consent. This is emergency only. Suppose another situation where gynecologist is available and MBBS is doing, or even surgeon is doing, that is not allowed. Then what is the fun in doing so much of these MDMS in different branches? And there is Supreme Court judgment also. You cannot claim as a specialist if you are not having recognized degree in that particular branch and recognized by MCI and registered with the State Medical Council or MCI. Until unless you cannot claim gynecologist or obstetrician. So emergency mein obviously MBBS can do to save the life. But as a routine of plant surgery, he cannot. If अगर वो करता है और कुछ होता है और वहाँ gynecologist available है उस एरिया में, then again he will be on back foot. Judgment will go against that doctor. So again here need for creating awareness among MBBS doctor कि आपको ये करना, कब करना है, कब नहीं करना है. आपको रिफर करना है केस, आपको कॉल करना है gynecologist को to be on the safer side.
Thank you, sir. One last question. Can we provide quality care with mixopathy?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because quality is a subjective. Again, quality is a subjective. मैंने जैसे कहा, अभी उन लोगों ने स्टेटमेंट दिया था, उनकी हायर अथॉरिटीज जो एसोसिएशन उनकी भी है, कि आईसीयू कारपोरेट हॉस्पिटल तक के आयुर्वेद वालों ने रन कर रखे हैं और हैं भी ऐसा. आई एम ऑनेस्टली एडमिटिंग कि ऐसा हो रहा. क्यों? क्योंकि हम पैसा कॉस्ट कटिंग, पैसा कम देना है उनको, इसलिए उनको रख लो. पब्लिक को तो पता नहीं है ये सब. तो क्वालिटी कैन नॉट बी मेंटेन वेयर इट इज रिटेन इन NBH accreditation, which is the body for private hospital to control the quality, कि आप दूसरी पैथी वाले को रख सकते हो. You cannot. So quality cannot be maintained.
Thank you,
जी.
Sir, now my question.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, to Dr. Subodh is, recently the government came up with a law that the medical profession is out of the ambit of the Consumer Protection Act. Please enlighten the members what is the status of medical profession in context of the changes made last year in the Consumer Protection Act.
This Consumer Protection Act got enacted on in August 2019, but it got enforced only on 20th July this 2020. Okay, almost after a year. So there was a lot of discussion in the media and amongst doctors whether it is applicable to medical services or not. I think you are pointing to this question, right? Because when a law is, a bill is introduced in the parliament, it is first introduced in one of the, Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. If it is approved by one of the houses, it goes to the other houses. So in one of the houses, medical services was mentioned in the services definition of the Consumer Protection Bill. When it went to the other house, medical services was dropped. Okay. Now, I'll just give a brief of what that definition is to understand the difference between service under in 1986 Act and what is in the new Act. It has three parts. The first part says service of any description. Okay. The second is inclusion part, means what services are included. But it very clearly says services of any description but and includes but is not limited to. So it mentions about insurance, it mentions about banking, financing, purveying of news and information, and the last part is the exclusionary part. That means what is excluded. There are only two exclusion. One is when it is given these services are rendered free of cost, and when it is a service under a personal contract. That means there is a master and servant relationship. Now, if you see this definition, the definition is same between 1986 and the current definition, because it says service of any description. So whatever services are mentioned there, it includes but not limited to. So there can be other services apart from insurance, banking, and others. So merely because it is excluded in the definition does not mean it is not there for us, because the definition is essentially the same. There is very little difference between the definition, and based on that definition in IMA versus VP Shanta in November 1995, the Supreme Court had held that the services rendered by us come under the ambit of Consumer Protection Act. Hope I have answered this question. Does that answer
So
you?
that, yes, that means we are definitely, and at this moment also, we are under the.
Yes, we are covered. Medical profession is covered. There should not be any confusion.
Lot of excitement that we are out of it. It is not true.
No,
It is not true.
no.
We are very much.
There is another implication. If you see the regulations under the mediation regulation, there is a new chapter on mediation. There is a possibility that if there is a possibility of a settlement, the consumer courts can send for mediation, which is done by a mediator who is separate from the court but attached to that particular court. So they have very clearly said under the regulation that those cases of medical negligence which involve death or grievous hurt cannot be sent for mediation. By implication, it means any other case of medical negligence can be sent to a consumer court. So you see it from any perspective, the medical negligence cases can go to a consumer court as the law stands today.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a query that now in an epidemic act, they have given some special protection to healthcare workers. So I just want to ask that this protection in various states is there, and there are more than about 10 states which have the Medicare's Protection Act. So why it cannot be made a central act legally? How we can fight that it becomes a central act?
Yeah, I think a lot of states have this protection of health workers. The problem is only of the implementation. Now, there are stringent provisions under the different acts in different states. Now, what the central government has come up with is an ordinance. So, ordinance is done, it's like a law, it has an effect of law also. Till the next parliament session comes in, they will have to produce that, introduce that bill in the parliament and get it passed by both the houses. So currently it is an ordinance, but in my opinion, a law has no value until the implementation is done. There have been so many incidents of violence prior to this ordinance, even when these acts in different states were existing. But till such time the state police and the other implementing authorities do not do anything about it, FIR is sometimes not lodged, or if it's non-bailable, it should be non-bailable. But these accused are enlarged on bail. So unless we impress upon the state authorities that this has to be implemented in its strictest sense, then it will only remain a paper tiger. So again, it's the role of the associations to insist. Like I'll give you an example of these telemedicine guidelines came up, and when it in March it was those guidelines were brought about, and one of the pediatrician somewhere in north, I'm not sure whether it was in Punjab, had given a consultation and he gave an invoice or a bill for that particular professional services, and this man went to the collector and filed a complaint saying that he's charging me for professional fees. Now, fortunate for him, the Indian Association of Pediatrics wrote a long letter saying that the telemedicine guidelines itself provides for professional fees. There is no wrong. It's not cheating or something. So when we support our own colleagues, why we form associations is for academic, enrichment, as well as supporting our colleagues whenever they are in trouble. So we collectively have to take these issues so that the state government and the central government will act upon it.
Sir, the case you are telling is happened in Amritsar, and Indian Medical Association, myself being a president, who stood
Right.
with him, and our doctor later on refused to give an FIR. Otherwise, the culprit was to be booked, and he was brought over there, and we were almost to file a case, but
Correct.
they went into a compromise, and we stood like a rock with them.
That was great. That's great. We should continue to do that.
Yes, sir. Sir, another question I have is that these acts, there are various acts which are guiding, which are on the medical profession. For example, Cosmetic Act, Drug Act, there is a PCP and DT Act, now Pollution Act and all that. Sir, is there any legal way out to make it a single window system? Or it is only government commitment, or we have to fight like this? I just want to ask about this something.
There cannot be a single window for the simple reason, I'm sure Dr. Yadav will also agree with me, because Consumer Protection Act is not only for doctors, it is for a consumer, and there will be a lot of consumers in different ways. Consumer as a banker, as an insurance policy, for different things. Same way, pollution acts will apply to anyone who is generating the pollution, whether it is the waste, biomedical waste that we are generating. So it's not only us that it would affect. So similar for all the other acts, but PCP and DT Act obviously is restricted to only those in genetics, pediatricians, radiologists, and obstetricians. So that's how it works. MTP will exclusively be for gynecologists. So we need to know the law. Ignorance of law is no excuse, as it said in it's a dictum in law. So we need to be aware of, and it's good that associations like yours conduct these awareness programs for the members. So you should have such programs where you say for gynecologists you should have something on MTP and PCP and DT Act. What are the different documents that needs to be stored, for how long it needs to be kept. All this they need to know well, because sometimes the authorities act a little difficult and intimidating, and if you do not know the law, like radiologists had a lot of problems with PCP and DT Act. So IMA, Maharashtra,
कंसल्टेशन करते रहना. ठीक है सर. इधर एक मीटिंग है उसको सर मैं आपको ले जाऊंगा. ठीक है.
I am sure other states also, and a lot of IMA and other medical associations have their own medico-legal cell, where it's not only creating awareness and disseminating knowledge, but also supporting them whenever a medico-legal case comes up. So it's a good idea to start there. So
thank you. My question to you, Dr. Yadav, is regarding medical legal cases. Suppose a road accident or some medical legal case comes to, but I am not interested in cutting the MLR report of that patient. Is it binding upon a hospital, or he can just give, he or she can give a first aid and then refer it to the center where the MLR report can be done? Or is it binding on the consultant or the hospital to have the MLR report of each and every such case?
Sir, it is binding, mandatory under Indian Medical Council Professional Conduct Ethics Etiquette Regulation. You cannot refuse any emergency. Number one, there is at least 4 or 5 judgment of Supreme Court starting from 1989, Pandit Parmanand Katara versus Union of India.
I'm not saying giving first aid or first aid. I'm saying particular point is whether it is binding upon me to do MLR or I can say that I have given you all the.
सर आप जब तक आप इस कॉन्सेप्ट को नहीं समझेंगे ना सर, जब तक आप कॉन्सेप्ट को नहीं समझेंगे आपको ये बात समझ में नहीं आएगी. इतना आसान नहीं है इसका आंसर. इमरजेंसी होगी वही आएगी ना. एक्सीडेंट इमरजेंसी है या नहीं? एंड यू हैव टू अटेंड एंड द फर्स्ट कॉन्टेक्ट डॉक्टर हैज टू डू MLC. MLC नथिंग न्यू. जो आपने ट्रीटमेंट किया, जो एग्जामिनेशन फाइंडिंग है, कौन उसको लेके आया, हिस्ट्री क्या, वही MLC है. यू कैन नॉट रिफ्यूज दैट. एंड देयर बहुत सारे केस हैं. इवन दिल्ली का आप याद करें, एक स्टेट कंज्यूमर कोर्ट केस था जहां पीडियाट्रिशियन अपनी प्राइवेट OPD में बैठा रहता है और एक स्टेप इंजरी का केस आता है एंड ही रिफ्यूज टू इंटरटेन और उसको रिफर कर देता है ऑर्चिड हॉस्पिटल के लिए. वहां उसकी डेथ हो जाती है पहुंचने से पहले. They went to the court awarded compensation of 10 lakh. You have not attended the emergency. So any emergency you have to attend as a first contact doctor. Whoever the first contact doctor has to make a MLC. So there is no problem. तो क्यों साइक होते हैं, लॉ से क्यों भागना चाहते हैं? We are for law. We are law-abiding intellectual citizen.
Sir, I am coming to that case of pediatrician.
Yeah.
Similarly, I am a general surgeon. A
Yeah.
case of, because it is in the Central Act of CA 2010 that
Yeah.
first aid or actually they are saying stabilize the patient. Sir, a patient of heart attack comes to my hospital. I am a general surgeon. I cannot stabilize that patient, right? So if I start stabilizing the patient, I'll be hauled in a consumer case that you are surgeon. Why did you treat? Or is
Sir,
it my duty to-
in emergency there is lot of protection to the doctor. In emergency, again section 92 IPC, you can do anything but you have to prove on record it was emergency and there was no time to refer the patient. Death can happen in the transit and there is again guidelines कि स्टेबलाइज करना है. और जो आपका रिसोर्सेज है, आपकी नॉलेज, आपकी इक्विपमेंट, आपकी फैसिलिटी, विद इन दैट यू हैव टू डू. दिस इज द एक्सपेक्टेशंस ऑफ लॉ. लॉ एक्सपेक्टेशन you have to attend and do within your reasonable qualification, degree, facility, and if patient is established then you refer and everything should be documented which will help you, which usually we are not doing. जहां पे भी प्रॉब्लम हुई वहीं क्या हुआ, अटेंड ही नहीं किया केस को, या किया तो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन नहीं है. मेरी रिसर्च में 30 से 40% केस वो हैं जहां मेडिकल रिकॉर्ड प्रॉपर नहीं है. 40-60% हुआ जहां कंसेंट नहीं ले रखी है. ले रखी है तो प्रॉपर कंसेंट नहीं है. जो भी पहला डिस्कशन आपका चल रहा था नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट कमीशन, नेशनल कंज्यूमर कोर्ट वाला, कि वो प्रिंटेड फॉर्म होना चाहिए. नहीं, कितने लोगों ने एक्चुअल जजमेंट पढ़ा है, उसमें कहीं नहीं लिखा है ये चीज. दे लेफ्ट ब्लैंक स्पेसेस. Court said you cannot leave anything blank. At least material significant complication should be part of consent. And language, अब वो आप हैंड रिटन करा सकते हो, आप लोकल लैंग्वेज में टाइप करा सकते हो, हर प्रोसीजर का अलग बना सकते हो. क्योंकि इन्फॉर्म कंसेंट इज नॉट जस्ट सिग्नेचर टेकिंग सेरेमनी. It is a dialogue between patient and doctor, which is the whole basis for doctor-patient relationship. Trust has to be built up when you have to discuss. This moment arises in each step. आज अभी आपने इस चीज की कंसेंट दी, फिर कोई नई चीज आ गई, you have to again explain risk and benefit and then leave it on the patient. और ये बहुत लो प्रियोरिटी एरिया में एक आपको बहुत एग्जांपल इंपॉर्टेंट देना चाह रहा हूं आज की डेट का. आज पूरी कंट्री में वैक्सीनेशन हो रहा है ना, और ये क्लिनिकल ट्रायल है फेज 3. मैं कोई क्रिटिसाइज नहीं कर रहा हूं, मैं बता रहा हूं कि कहां प्रॉब्लम है हमारी इंडियन साइकोलॉजी में. क्लिनिक 2 सुप्रीम कोर्ट के PIL हैं पेंडिंग इसी इशू पे. इंदौर का अगर आप देखिए 250 डॉक्टरों पे एक्शन हुआ था, बिना कंसेंट के क्लिनिकल ट्रायल चल रहा था. और कोर्ट के डायरेक्शन के बाद 2019 में गजट नोटिफिकेशन हुआ इसी का कि कोई भी क्लिनिकल ट्रायल बिना इन्फॉर्म रिटन कंसेंट के नहीं होगी. आज पूरी कंट्री में हो रहा, कहीं कंसेंट ली जा रही है बताइए. इवन मैं मेडिकल कॉलेज में प्रिंसिपल गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज, मैंने भी वैक्सीन लगवाया. मैं अपोज इसलिए नहीं कर रहा हूं कि फिर ये कहा जाएगा ये अपोज कर रहा है. दिस इज द सिनेरियो. आप बताइए, आप पूछिए अपने स्टेट में, पूछिए जरा क्या कोई इन्फॉर्म कंसेंट है. बिना फैक्ट शीट बताए कंपनी खुद नहीं क्लेम कर पा रही है कि भी इसकी इम्यूनिटी होगी कि नहीं होगी, कितने, क्योंकि स्टिल इट इन द clinical trial phase. Under emergency it has been permitted. So जब गवर्नमेंट इतनी हाई अथॉरिटी, कोई कहीं से भी आप बताइए आवाज आई हो, एमपी का एक डिस्कशन हुआ है एनडीटीवी पे, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, कि एक पेशेंट को दिया गया, उसकी डेथ हो गई, मे बी इससे हुई हो नहीं हुई हो, उनसे पूछा गया 5-6 लोगों से कि भाई आपको कंसेंट फॉर्म दिया गया कि नहीं दिया गया। मैंने अपने यहाँ डिस्ट्रिक्ट में सबको बताया, डीएम को बताया, सीएमओ को बताया, नोबडी बॉदर अबाउट दैट। अगर इससे डैमेज होता है तो कंपनसेशन कंपलसरी है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट मेंशन कर चुका है, और गजट नोटिफिकेशन 2019 का ड्रग कॉस्मेटिक एक्ट में स्पेशली फॉर क्लिनिकल ट्रायल। सो हमें अपनी साइकोलॉजी बदलनी पड़ेगी, और बीइंग ए इंटेलेक्चुअल डॉक्टर वी हैव टू रिस्पेक्ट द लॉ। लॉ इज फॉर योर प्रोटेक्शन, लॉ इज फॉर, क्योंकि हम लोग जब भी बात करते हैं तो ये बात करते हैं कि हम डॉक्टर हैं, आप ये कभी नहीं सोचते हैं कि आप पेशेंट भी तो होंगे कभी, उस समय क्या लॉ आपको नहीं चाहिए होगा? मैक्सिमम केसेस ऑफ कंज्यूमर कोर्ट borne by doctor against the doctor.
Can I make one point? I'm surprised that बहुत जगह पे आज consent नहीं ले रहे हैं for the vaccine trial. That is the job of the ethics committee, and I serve on a lot of ethics committee where we are monitoring these vaccine trials. We have actually checked whether consent has been taken or not. So I'm surprised that in some parts this has not been done, but the places where I am serving on ethics committee, I have noticed, I have personally seen, so I can vouch for it, because we are monitoring these vaccine trials and it's been done. So maybe in some areas it's not happening. You
That's
may have
UP, the whole UP. I'm
Correct.
from UP.
Okay.
Whole UP, और मैंने और भी जगह स्टेट से कंफर्म किया, कहीं नहीं हो रहा है।
सर मैं अभी यहाँ टॉक पे आने से पहले फर्स्ट वैक्सीन एज अ इंडियन मेडिकल एसोसिएशन प्रेसिडेंट लगवा के आया हूँ, मेरे से कोई कंसेंट नहीं।
समझ लीजिए, देखिए सर, देखिए,
नहीं कंसेंट फॉर
मेरे को उसने बताया कि आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम,
दैट इज इम्प्लाइड, दैट इज वर्बल।
हाँ वर्बल वहाँ पे कंसेंट हुआ, रिटन कंसेंट कोई नहीं था सर।
डॉक्टर साहब, आपने वैक्सीन ट्रायल के तौर पे लिया है एज अ पार्टिसिपेंट एज और एज थेरेप्यूटिक?
नो सर, टुडे इट वाज इन्फॉर्म्ड
But it is still in clinical
Yeah.
phase of trial. This
Correct.
whole exercise.
But after this session, I'm also rushing for the vaccine. But it is not as a participant, but I'm going to take it as a vaccine, as a preventive measure. So when I take it as a treatment, there is no need to take consent. But if you are a participant, you have
no
to
way
have.
it is written, sir. It is a clinical phase 3 trial. This whole country is going under clinical phase 3 trial.
I agree with you, sir. But
और
now
डॉक्यूमेंट आप पढ़िए, गजट नोटिफिकेशन आपको मैं भेज दूंगा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट भी भेज दूंगा।
but sir.
Civil Writ Petition 33 and 79 of 2012. Just please check
Yes,
all the
sir.
order of Supreme Court.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. But CDSCO has approved it for emergency use in view of the prevailing pandemic, is what I understand of the whole thing.
सर फिर वही suppose any death occur, then what will
सर
happen?
लेट्स, एक क्वेश्चन आया मेरे को भी मैसेज में सर, वी हैव टेकन अ फायर कंसेंट, वी हैव ऑल द इक्विपमेंट्स इन द हॉस्पिटल एंड वी हैव अ वैलिड सर्टिफिकेट, एंड इफ आल्सो इफ देयर इज सम इंसिडेंट which happens after taking all the consents and everything, because it is not natural, it is always unnatural, and if something goes wrong, what is the liability of the doctor and what is the liability of the owner?
Okay, if you have complied with the different laws, then under those laws which ask you to comply with the fire audits, abhi हाल ही में महाराष्ट्र में there was a case after which there has been fire audits of all the hospitals in Maharashtra. But if you have complied with the law and something happens, but this happening should not be because of say short circuit or some, if a human component has been found to be responsible for that, if the probe, because of the probe,
सर ये आए थे, वो भी कहते थे चौकी के लिए बनवा दो।
डॉक्टर यादव
जी
सर म्यूट कर लीजिए, बीच में आता है आपका बात आता है, म्यूट कर लीजिए। हेलो, आप mute-
ठीक।
yeah. If the probe that happens after this fire, because any fire incident in a hospital, usually the state government is going to institute a probe. So if even the fire authorities conduct a detailed probe of actually why this incident has happened. So if there is a human component and it is found that it is because of negligence, means you have to take care for preventing fire. It's not only compliance with the different laws that are required to prevent this, or exit alag hona hai, whatever the statute states. But if still you have been negligent, if somebody has the wires are dangling in the hospital, there can be the wires are not properly insulated, then it is a human error, and the probe will indicate, the investigation will indicate that it is because of this particular reason. So even if you have been compliant with the different regulations and the laws, but if there has been some problem with the human component where one of the employees has been negligent, then the hospital can be liable, and the hospital has vicarious liability for any acts of omission or commission of its employees.
सर एक और अभी क्वेश्चन आया है सर, वो ये है कि सर हम बायोमेडिकल वेस्ट का लाइसेंस ले लिया, हमने थर्ड पार्टी से एग्रीमेंट कर लिया, लेकिन सर कहीं पे क्या हो रहा है कि जो छोटे हॉस्पिटल इक्का दुक्का बहुत दूर हैं, जहाँ पे इनको वायबिलिटी नहीं बनती उस प्राइस के हिसाब से, सर वहाँ पे उसने अपना सेग्रीगेट करके वेंडर को दे दिया, लेकिन वेंडर ने इंस्टेड ऑफ सेंडिंग इट टू द टर्मिनल पॉइंट कहीं रास्ते में कुछ कर दिया, तो उसमें सर वो जाके तंग हॉस्पिटल को ही करते हैं, उसमें सर क्या लायबिलिटी है हॉस्पिटल की और उस वेंडर की जो लेके गया है सर?
This all depends on what is your agreement. Supposing he is a third party and you have given it to them to dispose of, so by your agreement you have disposed it as per the biomedical regulations. Once it goes into a authorized, obviously it has to be a authorized agency recognized by the state government or the local municipal authorities. If it has gone into their hands and something has gone wrong at that end, then obviously the responsibility will lie with that particular agency and not with you. So till the point you hand it over to that, if you have proper bag में आपने डाला है, red में जो डालना है, green में जो डालना है, so if you have disposed as per the local biomedical regulations, then obviously you will not be held responsible.
Sir, one good question, because this is the records always speak. What should be the policy and what is the legal policy about the retention of records in a hospital? Retention of records. Hello?
Your voice is breaking, sir.
Hello?
Your voice was getting distorted. Can you repeat the question, sir?
I'll repeat my question once again.
Yeah.
What is the policy of retention of records in a hospital?
Okay.
For how long different types of records, simple records, indoor records, OPD records, what should be the policy to destroy those records?
Right. See, as per the Medical Council of India Act, the code of conduct that we had, obviously Medical Council of India Act is now repealed and replaced by National Medical Commission Act. But till such time, the National Medical Commission comes up with its own code of conduct, the one under Medical Council of India Act will remain, it will prevail. As per that code of conduct, we have to retain it for at least 3 years from the date of last or the discharge or of that particular patient. Now, under different acts, there are different dates. Now, like under PCP NDT Act, it's almost 5 years. Different documents have to be maintained. MTP Act, it's 3 years for different documents. So it depends upon a specific act. So we have to refer to a specific act, but generally, if it is not MTP, PCP, NDT Act, it should be 3 years. If this matter is subject to some legal proceeding, then you have to keep it lifetime. The reason is that even if that matter is ended, it can go in appeal, it may go up to the Supreme Court, so it may take 10 years, 20 years, anything. In such a case, your documents should be with you till the final disposal of that matter. So that's why I said lifetime you will have to keep for that. There is one way of handling it for hospitals. If you are not sure if it's a subject matter of any legal proceeding, after 3 years, you can give an advertisement in the newspaper, especially for big hospital, saying that we are disposing of the medical records with respect to so and so years. If anybody is interested, within 1 month or 2 months, they should seek copies of this if they are the authorized representatives, or if it refers to them. So then after that period is over, you can dispose that if you are not in the know of a legal proceeding, right?
Sir, are there any provisions specific to the neonates like cesarean delivery or treatment of the premature or neonates? Because they'll get mature after 18 years of the age. And
Right. Fortunately, in India, like it's in the West, where people talk about maintaining records 18 plus 3 years, because once he attains majority, he is capable legally to file a case. In this country, a lot of people are filing on behalf of the minor child. Like a lot of cases like ROP, this retinopathy or prematurity cases, or any abnormalities that happen because of delivery time, So recent cases have been filed for ROP when the child is a infant stage. So the mother or the father files the case on his behalf. Normally, they themselves would not retain any records for say 18 years. So it may be still this thing has not come in India, but there is a chance that if we keep talking about this and there is sensitivity about this thing, this can go forward. There is but currently the parents are filing on behalf of the minor.
thank you, sir. I have one question. That accreditations like NABH, are they certificate in the court of law that our hospital is having the minimum required facilities?
uh, you are talking in the context of negligence or deficiency of service.
Deficiency service.
Yeah. See, negligence is different from maintaining standards. Hospital, they are totally different. See, negligence is a failure to take care. Okay. We have three fundamental duties, as Supreme Court has laid down in a case in 1969. Duty of care in deciding whether whether I should treat the patient who has come to me, because if a case of say neurosurgery comes to you as a gynecologist, obviously you will have to refer it. You are not competent to handle it. Second duty of care is in deciding what treatment to give, whether surgical line of treatment, medical, or sometimes you give only reassurance. Third duty of care is in deciding the manner of treatment. So you leave a gauze piece behind, or you leave a forceps behind, or while giving a particular injection, say methotrexate, you will have to first do basic investigations. And there are instances where people have given methotrexate without doing the basic investigation. Patient lands up in a liver failure. So such things happen. So these are our duties of care. If we fail in our duty of care, even if we have the highest standard of care, standard of hospital, NABH accredited or otherwise, we still will be held negligent. So negligence per se, you can show that you have this accreditation, so you have the facilities with you, you maintain the highest standard, you maintain the records. But if one of our doctors has failed in his duty, the NABH is not going to, the certification is not going to protect you from negligence. It may support you in saying that you had all the facility, your consultants were skilled, they were qualified. This is all you can say with the help of NABH.
Sir, my question was to the contest that sometimes the allegation over there is that so and so procedure was done or so and so treatment was given in a particular hospital or institution. They do not have the infrastructure or the basic things. And these institutions have certified that you have the facilities for these things, because
In
that's
such,
the,
yeah, in such cases, obviously it comes to your rescue. But let us remember that you still have to maintain an inventory and all that, because supposing oxygen cylinder has got depleted on a particular day, on the day of your NABH accreditation, everything was available. But on a particular day, if adrenaline is not available, this can happen. Certain basic things cannot be available for whatever reasons. Then obviously, your if they can, because negligence is something which has to be proved in a court of law. Deficiency of service is to be proved in a court of law, and the onus of proving negligence or deficiency service is only solely on the person who is alleging, that is the patient or the legal representative of the patient if the patient has died. So when it is solely on them, they have to prove that this thing was not available. It's not for you to disprove that. The only circumstance when it has to be the onus is not on the patient but the doctor is when a circumstance called as res ispa loquitur, which means the thing speaks for itself. If you have left a gauze piece inside, you don't need any other proof, because gauze piece is not supposed to be in the abdomen after the surgery is over. So in such cases, no proof is required. Otherwise, in every case, the patient or his legal representatives have to prove the negligence.
so I think as far as golf is concerned, there is one case where some professor from AIMS certified that in such a situation, the situation was desperate and this can happen. I think the case was acquitted in the court.
Which case of gallbladder?
One cesarean or something, they missed the hospital in the abdomen, and the expert said the patient was in a difficult situation and
Right.
something.
There have been a lot of cases where hospice has been left behind, and most of the cases, it's indefensible cases. This is one of the cases where I would recommend to go for a amicable settlement, because what is the defense you have in such cases? You have no reason why you should leave the hospice behind. But there was one case where this was from Maharashtra, and the gauze piece was left behind and it was discovered 9 years after the date of surgery. So in that particular case, the limitation period when you can go to a court is mentioned in a particular law. Like in Consumer Protection Act, it is 2 years from the date of the cause of action. So if the surgery was done in 220, then up to 222 only you can file a case, unless you have given some grounds of justification why you delayed. Now what is the ground one can give? मुझे पता ही नहीं था मेरे पेट में गॉस पीस था, इसलिए that benefit of extension of time is given. But in the instant case, this was a staff nurse, a qualified staff nurse and experienced. For 9 years, she was having pain. She did not go to the operating surgeon. She used to take painkillers on her own. On that ground, the Supreme Court said that it is not a case where there was no knowledge at all. She may not have known that the gauze piece was inside, but she knew something was wrong. She was having pain. She could have, of course, approached that doctor and he would have removed. You waited for 9 years. So the condonation of delay beyond 2 years was not given in that particular case. So every case has different facts and circumstances, and based on that, a case is decided by the courts. Hope I have answered your question, sir.
Sir, once again, sir, coming back to mixopathy, what is the legal responsibility of the institutions running ICU without MBBS doctors or only on the basis of the BMS doctors?
It's very clear. There is a case called as Poonam Verma versus Dr. Ashwin Patel's case, where a homeopath was treating a patient of suspected typhoid fever. The patient developed encephalopathy and died. When this went to the National Commission, a complaint was filed. A medical board said that the treatment that was given was perfect. Okay, because ciprofloxacin was the drug of choice at that point of time. So he had given everything but the patient died. But when it went to Supreme Court in appeal, the Supreme Court said the very fact that a person trained in one system of medicine is practicing another system of medicine itself is negligence. You don't have to even prove negligence. If a MBBS doctor, a MD doctor would have treated this patient and the patient would have died of encephalopathy, there would have been no negligence if the same treatment was given. But because it was not the system he had studied, the Supreme Court held it to be negligence per se. So the difference is of that. So similarly, if you have in the ICU and the patient gets some problem, and the treating doctor is a BAMS doctor, there can be issues because they cannot administer medicines. They cannot. They may be able to monitor. People say if a nurse can monitor, why can't a BAMS doctor do that? So that is possible, but assessment of a patient and management of a patient as the law stands today, that is not allowed. If this mixopathy is pushed forward, maybe the law will be different. Let's understand, as a disclaimer, whatever we are discussing is as the law stands today. So what it as it changes later, it may be a different perspective altogether.
So we are surgeons and we'll talk more of the surgery. I start the surgery. I do half the surgery. That is enough for the patient today. And 2 years later, patient gets the complications. Like I have started a hysterectomy, and one of the reasons given for subtotal hysterectomy is the lack of experience or something. I did the subtotal hysterectomy, later patient developed CS cervix. One thing.
Doctor,
Second is,
unfortunately, I am not able to hear you well. There's some
I'll
disturbance.
repeat, I'll repeat, sir.
Yeah.
Like they say, sir, they say
Uh,
there is an indication for subtotal hysterectomy, lack of experience.
yeah.
I'm a gynecologist. I started a hysterectomy. I did the subtotal hysterectomy. For the time being, patient is perfectly all right. She doesn't have any complaints. After
Hmm.
fortnight, he or she will see a cervix. That is
Hmm.
one situation. Another situation is a general surgeon, not very experienced in an ordinary hospital. Patient comes with blunt injury abdomen and he opens it. There is a urinal injury. He thinks that I am not in a situation to manage it. He closes the patient on a drain and refers it to a higher institution. Then what is the legal situation in both of this?
I have not understood the question well. I'll just repeat so that I understand. You are saying, yeah,
I did
you get a complication arises when,
first question is I did a subtotal hysterectomy. Patient well CA cervix after some time.
yeah,
Patient complains that so and so person has done incomplete surgery.
uh,
Maybe any situation.
uh,
Then what is the legal and goes to the court that I have got CS certificate patient doctor didn't do the complete surgery and today I'm getting the complication because of his incomplete surgery, irrespective of the situation. What was the situation at that
okay,
time?
okay. We'll answer this first. You are saying that the patient develops CA cervix because you have done a subtotal
Right.
hysterectomy. Now, the cause of CA cervix is not total hysterectomy, right? And there were no indications for you to do a total hysterectomy at that point of time. Then you are not in the wrong. The risk of CA cervix is independent of what surgery you have done. Correct? Is that right? So your records will show what was the indication for doing a subtotal hysterectomy at that point of time. So as Dr. Yadav also mentioned, record is a very important component, because if you why your records, because as doctor also just mentioned some time ago, records speak, right? So what you have given, not given, the records are going to speak. You will have to justify why you had done a subtotal hysterectomy. And just because a total was not done, a CA cervix does not happen. There are different indications. HPV, which is not the reason for, you would not do a total hysterectomy in every case. There will be an indication why you would do a subtotal hysterectomy, right?
Second is I have opened a case for a particular surgery. When I open the
Right.
case, I find it is difficult. Either this is difficult to do it, or the situation with me is that I cannot complete the surgery. I have to
Correct.
refer the patient to close it. and intimate the patient with the situation and refer it to a higher institution.
Right. That is fine, because there are instances where it happens, but obviously you should have done a proper pre-operative workup. Your document should mention that there is no such kind of expectation, right? Like the famous case of a surgeon that happened, where a lady had malignancy in the past. She had gone to US, and the doctors there had said, it's all hard inside, it's inoperable case. She was brought to Mumbai in a premier institution, and the oncosurgeon said, we'll open up and see. And he was in the adjacent operation theater while the lady was being operated by his junior, and he just peeped inside and said, what happened, how is she doing? And that doctor just mentioned that there's a lot of seeding, there are a lot of mats there, and it's too hard, we can't operate. So he said, okay, close it. Now this matter went to Bombay High Court, Supreme Court, and different levels, not only in a civil court, but even before the medical council as well as a criminal court. Now the issue there was, some doctors had already opined that the patient is inoperable. So why was the need to touch the patient? So as I said, facts and circumstances decide. So if you had an indication why you opened the patient, and you obviously did in the interest of the patient, there was an indication for opening the patient. If under the circumstances you cannot operate further, or if there is an involvement of another structure which does not come in your field, like urethral injury or something, or a surgery which is different, then obviously you will have to close up, and you will need even permissions and consent for that particular surgery. The famous case, you all must be aware of, Dr. Samira Kohli versus Prabha Machanda, where the patient had endometriosis, and she was posted for laparoscopy, and she was taken up on the table, and when she came out of the operation theater, a total hysterectomy with salpingectomy and oophorectomy also was done. So in that case, the Supreme Court said that if you are taking a patient for a therapeutic procedure, that consent is not sufficient for you to do a therapeutic procedure. So diagnostic procedure consent cannot be used for therapeutic. Only if, while doing a diagnostic procedure, you find a lot of bleeding happening, or there is a threat to the life of the patient, then only you should go ahead with the procedure. Especially this patient was, though she was perimenopausal, she said that my right for reproduction has been snatched away by just removing my ovaries without my permission. So the considerations will be different, because the consent was not taken for the procedure, it was only for the diagnostic procedure that was taken. I hope I have answered that question.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
With this, we close the session. Thank you.
Thank you,
Both
Dr. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Yadav.
Thank you, Dr. Yadav. It's a
Thank you for the
pleasure.
knowledge that you have given to us. Thank you very much.
Yeah.